That position by ZEC is ridiculous. That's the first point that we want to make. Secondly, it is totally unacceptable. Thirdly, it is unconstitutional. Fourthly, it is undemocratic. Fifthly, ZEC has no powers at all to be involved in making such a fundamental decision regarding who stands and who doesn't stand as a candidate in an election.
On this, the free talk.
Zimbabwe goes into an election in 2023. And as we prepare for those elections, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission has thrown itself in the eye of the storm after announcing what other political parties have said are very, very exorbitant nomination fees. But this has also been met with mixed feelings. Some believe that those nomination fees are justified, while others believe that those nomination fees are abnormal and they are actually an impediment in democracy. Now here on this, the Free Talk, in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation, we delve into the matter. Are the nomination fees a good thing for our democracy, for political participation? Join me just after this break on this, the Free Talk, in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation. Me, your host as usual, Dara P.
Recently, ZEC gazetted nomination fees and increased the nomination fees of the president from 1,000 to 20,000, and they also increased the nomination fees of parliamentarians to 1,000. What is your take on that latest move, President?
Totally criminal, unlawful, unconstitutional, and violating all the dictates of the critical statutes that govern governments, constitutions, and elections in the region, on the continent, and of course in the world. Nowhere would you find that kind of a decision being done unilaterally. That flies in the face of what we stand for. Every key decision that involves people, citizens, institutions must be on the basis of consultation. You know, there are people who would want to be candidates. They were supposed to be consulted. Citizens have to be consulted. This is the most critical offices that are going to be responsible for the running of a country. President, MPs, councillors. You can't just wake up, from nowhere, like you have a drunken, stupor, and you just say, this is the figure. Where are you getting it? Has there been a conversation? Is there a consensus? Is there a dialogue? That is what we would want to see. You can't just impose things on people. Human beings are not objects. We are not even subjects. We are citizens, and we are the masters. ZEC is our institution. ZEC cannot be that tail that wags the dog. We are the masters. We call the shots as citizens. And we are the ones who should then be able to say, this we agree with or this we don't. They can recommend, but they can't just wake up and gazette an illegality, gazette a criminal thing, gazette a war against the poor, war against the citizens, commodifying, elections and democracy. Democracy is not for sale. Elections are not a money-making exercise. They are a government-making, process. And when you make a government, you want that government to also be accessible to all. And so we don't agree with those gazetted fees, and we'll fight them legally, constitutionally, and peacefully through all our means and capacities.
But some have argued that this cleans our electoral processes to chances and allows those who are on serious to contest. What is your view on that?
Who told you that seriousness is a function of having a lot of money? Who told you that chances are people who don't have money? It's so condescending and so prejudicial. You don't just get to be that subjective. It's not tested by process. It's not based on an objective criteria and conversation. That's why you see it's probably coming from certain quarters, not in touch with the reality on the ground. Zimbabweans are struggling, and Zimbabweans would want to make a leader, and it's not about the money that is there. We can't behave as if we are all coming from cartels, or we come from people who are looting money. That's what happens when there is a disjuncture between those who are looting and those whose resources are being looted. Those who are looting begin to lose a sense of what money is all about. And those figures for them is probably a drop in the ocean. But for those who really struggle, like myself, like yourself, a lot of us, and that's why I saw Professor Madhuku also agreeing with me. I'm glad that we are in the same boat on that. But that's the boat of the citizens. We want this thing to be reviewed and a proper process to be done. Just like the issue of reforms and the commissioners who occupy those critical offices, they must be by agreement, not just to wake up with individuals whom you just brought and you say they are your body. What about if we say we don't recognize them? What would you do? Because it takes two to tango. This country does not belong to one political party. It belongs to all of us included. So you have to listen to our concerns. If you don't, our country is going to be entrapped in this vicious cycle of conflict, an unstable state, a disputed state. And of course, once we have a disputed state and an illegitimate president, we continue to have the economy, turning out of 10, as we have seen.
If they don't change, would your party be able to raise close to $500,000 to pay for presidential candidate, councillors, and legislators?
It's not about our party. It's about the principle and the objective. But what I can tell you is that when the election comes, we will not have any seat that is not contested. Because we're the next government. We are the people's choice. You know it. We all know it. They know it. That's why they are doing all these things. But also look at this from a fear perspective. They are so scared of elections. They wanted to change the age, the minimum age, to say our presidents must be 52. They also wanted to say our CCC does not have a constitution. Who told them that if you have a constitution, you must go and display it on your forehead? Who told them that we don't have cupboards and safes where we keep important documents? Who told them that? Why are they so naive about our makeup and our constitution? They've tried all sorts of things. And now they are blocking us from entering into rural areas. If they are saying rural areas are their strongholds, where they are neither strong or are having a hold, allow us. It's only when you are weak that you resort to the muscle. Clear thinkers don't resort to fights and violence. Violence is for the defeated and the losing.
And maybe just your message to the people of Zimbabwe, especially as you have faced this violence in where you are going, and those who might be thinking that you are powerless to doing things, especially given that they've seen Job Scala being arrested and spending 73 days in prison, but nothing has happened on the political front.
Well, nothing, what is the definition of nothing? I get people have this false sense, that if you are able to throw stones and then tomorrow the courts will say, you have thrown stones. No, this is a political issue that is being imposed on the legal issues. So it has to be dealt with politically. And when you deal with it politically, you also don't want to accept the invitation of your opponent. You only need to be stupid. No serious turkey would accept an invitation to a Christmas dinner. Okay? And I've said this over and over again. We know what we are doing. Don't mistake our call for peace as weakness. Strong people are peaceful. Weak people are violent. Just know that. We know what we are doing. We have the bone. A dog that has a bone in his mouth does not bark, uselessly and aimlessly, because the target is to make sure that you lose the bone. We have the bone, but of course we are worried about our comrades who are in jail. We want them to come out because they have not committed an offense. So we are doing everything to make sure that we secure their release, but without also making sure that, without also falling into the trap of our opponent. We are very clear on what we want to achieve. Zimbabweans, look, we are 10 months away from victory. Let's arrange. Let's organize. Let's not be distracted. Young people, this is your act. Take charge. Lead. Organize. Mobilize. Register to vote. Because this is your country. That's how we are going to fix. Your jobs are in your vote. Your opportunities are in your vote. If you want a happy life, in your vote. Happy marriages, in your vote. Houses, cars. If you want to have an opportunity to live an excellent life, it's your vote. Use it, because that's your passport. And that's your password to victory. That is what will transport you to success. That's my appeal, young people. If you are 18 and above and you are not registered to vote, please listen to my voice. Parents out there, families, communities, pastors, churches, helpers, traditional leaders, encourage community. Let it be a family affair. Let it be a community affair. Let it be a church affair. Let it be an all of us affair, Zimbabwean affair, encouraging each other. 18, let's go and vote. The vote is so powerful. Someone say, it doesn't change. It changes things, but we need a wide margin. When there is a narrow margin, it doesn't change things, because they can also change your result. But if you have voted, every citizen, the vote can be changed. Look at Zambia. Look at Malawi. You can't change that vote. Look at DRC. We are the next. We can't just be looking at bright sparks around us. Let's be the bright spark. Thank you.
Welcome back to this edition of The Free Talk with me, your host, as usual, Dara Blessed Mhlanga. We bring you the conversations that matter, and this week, the conversation that is topical and has put social media, on the brink of collapsing is the nomination fees. Are they justified? Are they undemocratic? Should 2023 candidates be determined by nomination fees? Now, to have me discuss this is academic and author Richard Maomba. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much.
Joining me also in studio is the leader of fees, Godfrey Tsenengam, my brother. Thank you very much for coming through.
Thank you, my brother.
And I'm also joined by the leader of LEAD, Tsungirai Masarira. Thank you very much, Madam Linda, Madam President, for joining us.
You're welcome, and thank you for calling me with my Shona name for the first time. I'm very delighted.
Amazing. No, I will start with you, my brother from Fees. I'd want you to talk about the manner in which you have viewed the announcement by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, those nomination fees, $20,000 for a presidential candidate, $1,000 for a House of Assembly candidate. That is because there's a difference, House of Assembly and Senate. So House of Assembly is $1,000, Senate and councillors around $100. Let us talk about that.
Okay, thank you, my brother. I think as
as a party, our position has been very clear from day one that we condemn the move by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to charge those exorbitant fees, nomination fees, which in our view is a move meant to preserve dominance by traditionally bigger parties that we know have sound financial basis from their sponsors and donors, and in a way trying to shut the door on smaller political parties and also other politicians who would want to take part in the 2023 elections. It is the view of the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe that ZEC is taking us back to the Rhodesian era, where the Rhodesian government imposed conditions, monetary conditions on blacks in order for them to qualify to vote. They did all that in order to preserve white supremacy and white control in a country where the majority of the people were blacks. So we don't take that lightly, and we have asked our legal guys to work on a way on how we can approach this, because we believe that we don't just have to come for interviews or make press statements or hold press conferences. We believe that we must take ZEC head on, because in our view it is also a violation of our rights as enshrined in the Constitution. It's not to say that as a party we cannot afford to raise $20,000. We are a party that has its membership. We are self-funded. We have the ability to raise that $20,000 if we are to decide to have a presidential candidate. But what that means is instead of us using maybe that money on certain other issues that we believe are of importance as a party, we then have to fork out more than $500,000 to field parliamentary candidates, that is House of Assembly, that is Senate, councillors, and also a presidential candidate. And what is the basis for ZEC to charge all that? We have not heard why they have done that, like raising the presidential fee from $1,000 to $20,000. So we are a socialist party, we are a pro-poor party. We have a problem with people who commodify rights and certain things that people must have access to without a problem. So that is the position of the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe.
Amazing. I'll start with the political parties and I'll come to you on an academic level. But Linda, Madam President, I've seen your stance that you believe that this is the right move. Why?
Okay. I think I have to clarify your position, because that is not our position. We have got mixed reactions to ZEC's announcement. Firstly, maybe because we support the increase of the presidential candidate nomination fees, and as a party, we actually recommended to ZEC last year in October to raise the presidential nomination fees. Our recommendation then was about $25,000. The reason being, I've been in a number of forums with those who contested for presidency in 2018. The level of shallowness, the level of lack of appreciation of the office of the presidency is what made me sit down with my colleagues and Labour economists and African Democrats and say, if such people can try to run for the highest office of the land, we are actually belittling that office. Because there has to be a certain level of appreciation of how to govern or how to run a country, which was totally void in most presidential candidates in 2018. And at the end of the day, one should just not want to be a presidential candidate for the sake of being one or to be included in the Pollard list of 2023. We need serious contenders for that office. People who appreciate how systems are run. People who understand what governance is. At the end of the day, if we're going to continue having any Tom, Dick, and Harry saying they want to run for the highest office of the land without appreciating the mandate of that office, we'll actually be doing a great disservice to the change that we actually want to see in this country. Secondly, as a political party, we are very disgruntled. We condemn the increase of nomination fees for MPs, for senators, and the introduction of nomination fees for councillors. We are cognizant of the fact that Zimbabwe is a constitutional and representative democracy. The increase of the nomination fees for MPs and Senate and the introduction of nomination fees for councillors is actually a violation of the constitutional representative democracy that we have in this country. Every Zimbabwean has got the right to represent their own people. We are at a stage as a political party where we've been encouraging people to run for office in their localities, to run for office in the peri-urban areas, to run for office in the farming communities. We've got a lot of shadow councillors who are farm workers in the areas where they live, because we want them to be able to change their surroundings, because they are the ones who appreciate what happens in a particular area. For example, in our party, we are saying, if you live in Penalonga, the farming area, the councillor should come from the farm workers, because they are the ones who understand the struggles and the problems that they have. Or the farm owner, they know what they want to go and change in their rural district authority. The tragedy that we have had in Zimbabwe since time immemorial, from both the ruling party and the oppositions that they've been there, is elitism in politics, where Linda Masarira, who stays in Harare because she comes from Bikita, will go and run in Bikita but does not reside in Bikita and does not even appreciate the problems that are affecting people in Bikita. That is something that we are trying to change as a political party. But at a time where we are trying to encourage local people to be able to govern themselves, to run and transform their situations, we have ZEC slapping us in the face and increasing the nomination fees for MPs and introducing nomination fees for councillors. That is an oxymoron, and that is one thing that we are actually challenging from our perspective as lead, that the nomination fees for MPs, for Senate, and the introduction of nomination fees for councillors is actually a violation of Section 56 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which speaks to non-discrimination. Every Zimbabwean should be able to represent, to transform their own communities, and that is what we're fighting for. So at the end of the day, we have got two positions on this issue. We actually support the increase of the presidential candidate fees, so that we'll only have serious contenders, not people who want to go and look for money to campaign, look for funders' money, or operate on behalf of secret societies. We don't want that going into 2023. We want serious people who are concerned about this country, who've got a conviction and a motive to change and transform the fortunes of Zimbabwe.
Amazing. We'll be testing some of these assertions as we go on, but I'll allow you your introductory remarks.
Thank you very much, Blessing, for connecting me with my good brother and my good sister. And I think at a philosophical point from the submissions that they've made, there is that overarching emphasis of politics that revolves around the national question. And for me, it's a good starting point for the debate. And premised on that point, I want to make my first reflection on what the president of FIS raised, the issue of making sure that the process becomes eliticized. We have got traditional political parties coming into play and making reference to the Rhodesian Constitution of 1961. The Constitution in 1961, the Rhodesian one, was mainly preoccupied with propertied people getting to vote, right? And in this case, it becomes a different context, in the sense that in our time, we are witnessing a situation whereby ZEC is saying, in as much as you have got people, you must be political parties that emphasize seriousness for your existence. So that example of us returning the Rhodesian context, I think, does not become applicable in this case, because that only applied to citizens and not to political electoral frameworks. I think that needed to be clearly articulated. Now, one of the major critiques is that we, as the Second Republic, we have produced the Pollard, right, which was a post-election dialogue platform. And that Pollard platform enabled the president or the current government to discuss with these other small political players. So with the coming in of these fees in their hefty state, it means that political parties that had about maybe 52 followers in terms of what they got, political parties that had 1,000 votes in terms of what they got, will not be fully represented. So that on its own presents an existential threat to Pollard, which was a brainchild of the Second Republic under the leadership of Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa. But one distinguishing feature that comes out of that crisis is the fact that in as much as Pollard has been created to consolidate inclusiveness as a brainchild of the reform that we have in Zimbabwe, we see ZEC coming in to actually threaten the existence of an institution like Pollard. So what does it mean? It also means that at a political level, there is a certain function of the political paradigm. But in terms of institutions like the judiciary, in terms of the institutions like ZEC, those institutions are operating independently. So what am I saying? I strongly feel that in as much as we may be critical of the political dimension which affects institutions like Pollard, the fact that ZEC can actually put in a policy that threatens something that was of political convenience to all political parties, such as Pollard, it means that ZEC is operating as an independent institution. I think that emerges as a very clear perspective that in as much as we are complaining that political parties that were part of Pollard, which is a brainchild of the ZANU-PF government in the Second Republic, so it literally means that ZEC operates independently. So for anyone to argue that ZEC is being used to weaponize, is being weaponized to suppress other political voices, I think that is a misgiving. And if ever there were consultations between the government of the day and ZEC, I'm sure even the president himself would have not allowed that, because our country has benefited a lot from what Pollard has created. But also, one person would then ask that at an administrative level, what does it mean when ZEC decides to increase its fees? Because at the end of the day, ZEC is an organization that needs to function. And for me, I see that as an administrative move to say ZEC needs money, because ZEC's life cycle does not only begin and end with you going to the ballot, but ZEC's life cycle begins and ends with the process whereby after the election, ZEC has to function, ZEC has to fuel its vehicles and all of that. And if we're to be serious about democratization in our country, surely a political party that fails to raise a meager amount like $20,000 US, we can't expect such political parties to deliver the kind of democracy that we want, which is inclusive and all-embracing. If a political party is predicated on grassroots mobilization, I'm sure 30 cents, 50 cents from each member, if that political party has got about 500,000 followers, it can be able to raise that paltry $20,000 US.
Yeah, I just want to stay on you for a bit and say you are looking at the election on the level of the presidency alone, because the political party now has to raise close to 500,000. Now, is ZEC selling to people to run the elections? Because you are saying it also needs to survive. But ZEC, as we know, is an independent commission which is funded from taxpayers' money. So why would it commodify?
You are raising a very interesting point. Look, for anyone to participate in any process, they have to take responsibility for that process to function. It is irresponsible for a political party to say we know that the institution that monitors our elections is funded by the public funds, right? And therefore we think that anyone can come in on board. Because at the end of the day, if we are to go by that argument, what it means is that you are saying the majority of the public's funds should be used to fund minority interests at the end of the day. So that on its own stifles the whole process of democracy and its entire outlook. Because we are saying political parties, number one, must be responsible for processes that they want to take part in. And because these monies come from the greater part of our populace, surely our populace and its all hard-earned remittances cannot be used to sustain agendas of minority political bodies. So within the context of democracy, having political parties that have got people who can fund their interests within the promotion of the democratization space is of greater merit than wasting resources printing ballot paper for 34, 64 political parties that do not have a following and abusing the greater chunk of the majority's public funds. So the notion of public funds should be attributed to positive channeling to political parties that have got gross, huge followings.
My brother Tsenenga, if the party does not have a huge following, it should not exist. This is what I'm hearing. What is your take?
Okay. Yeah, I think the first problem, my brother, is you brought in Comrade Mahomba as an academic. I think I know him from someone, and what he's speaking from that perspective, though he would want to wear another gown. So obviously he must defend, but maybe trying not to do that directly. And so I understand and I appreciate. But my submission, one is the submission that has been made.
I like comment Tsenenga. He always shoots for the. That's exactly why you're on this panel. But
Anyway, we're interrupting you with collapse.
No, that's okay. So there was a submission that was put forward by my dear sister Mambukazi here to say they have no problems with nomination fees on the president. Then they have a problem with nomination fees on MPs and councillors, things like that. I think for us it gives us a problem that when we allow something to happen on A, we must also allow it to happen on B. If we think that we need quality people to contest, we need quality ideas, we need people who appreciate governance, things like that. But that cannot be measured by money. You can have money and still be a fool. You can have money and still be a clown.
do you have examples?
Yes, I do have examples.
Boris.
No, we cannot talk of bodies. We have to talk about what we have locally. I'll tell you. We have a number of parties that we think are going to be able, not that are going to be able, they have the ability to even fork out 500,000 for the president. But that doesn't mean that their presidential candidate is of quality or is a good governor. But it's because they have sources to get that money from. So we cannot say because someone is managed to pay 20,000, then they can be good presidents. That's not what how it operates. So my submission and that of the party is that people can be able to pay those amounts is charged by ZEC. I'll give you an example. In 2018, a certain political candidate had around 45,000 votes. If they had asked their members to provide $1, they would have been able to field 2 candidates. But what does that mean on the quality of that candidate in terms of governance, in terms of service delivery, in terms of appreciating what Zimbabwe really needs at this stage? You get it? So I don't think that we are going to be able to have good presidential candidates or serious presidential candidates based on the amounts that they are able to give to ZEC. Then on the issue that were raised by my brother, Comrade Mahomva, that ZEC has to survive, it requires some money so that it is able to carry out its administration work. No. That's not correct. That's not correct, because as you have alluded to, ZEC is an independent commission, fully funded. It's there in the constitution how these organizations are supposed to be funded. They are not supposed to fundraise from candidates. It's nowhere in the constitution. It's not there. So those who, when we agreed as a country that we are going to have the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, how is the ZHRC being funded? Because it doesn't run elections. How does the Zimbabwe Gender Commission raise its money? Does it raise its money from the women that it serves? Definitely not. How do all these other commissions, the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, does it collect money from accused persons? No, it doesn't. So ZEC cannot be allowed to say they want to raise money because they want to run elections, because they already have the money. If you look at the off-road vehicles that they have, it shows that they are getting money from somewhere, and they don't need to raise that money from presidential candidates. But why we have a problem also with that, it is because certain political parties or certain political players will be forced to go out and try to find funders for their political activities, to say, okay, can you give us $500,000? And there is no free money. There is no free lunch. So these people now have to be forced to get into concessions with their funders and say, if you give us this funding, and when we get into power, we'll be able to give you 1, 2, 3. And this is the genesis of corruption and scandals in government. I'll tell you the other example, that why we continue to have the Chinese menace in Zimbabwe. It is also because at some point when I was still in ZANU-PF, we got some materials from China. Huh? And in return, what do we give to them? We have to allow them access to certain things, including our resources. So this is the problem. You get it? So we have a problem with that, because it's going to cause far bigger problems than what we think. So we stand as a party that ZEC has to be stopped. And his assertion that ZEC is independent is not, from our point of view, correct. Look at how ZEC is constituted. The allegiance of some of the commissioners in ZEC is questionable. And Minister of Justice, my dear brother ZZ Ziyambi, was very clear kuti, at some meeting in Marsh West, kuti ZEC tinoiudza zvekudini zvekuita. And here my brother is an academic, is saying no, ZEC is independent. How is ZEC independent when a minister of government comes out saying no, tisi tinovaudza zvekudini zvekuita? And I don't think that we have to debate about that, because vanhu vemuZimbabwe knows kuti ZEC yakamira sei, it's a public secret. So hazvitomboda spinning izvozvo. Everyone knows how ZEC operates.
I want to come to you, Mambokadzi. You spoke about you being happy with the presidential nomination fee. Does money show seriousness, or it shows wealth?
I think it shows seriousness, because any presidential candidate who is serious should also have the ability to mobilize funds. And when we speak of resource mobilization, we are trying to get presidential candidates to be able to organize funds from within their own structures. One of the biggest tragedies we have had with our politics in this country, like my brother Tsenangamu rightfully alluded to, is running either to the west or the east with begging bowls. There is no free lunch in politics. At the end of the day, you're going to have to trade something to cover for those funds that you would have received. That is actually one thing that I've spoken about time and again, that we need to stop this habit of running to the west or to the east with begging bowls. Because we have the ability to mobilize resources from within, from our very own people. And that is what we have done as a political party. And when these fees were raised, we actually had consultations. And I'm proud to say that our youth said we are going to be making sure that every young lead member, because our youth is called Young Lead, will donate $1 each towards the presidential nomination candidate fees. So at the end of the day, I think we would want to have this hullabaloo on whether it shows seriousness or wealth. It's not about wealth. It is about seriousness. We need serious candidates. At the end of the day, like what Mahomba said, it will also be a time where people should also form coalitions if they cannot afford to raise the 20,000 US dollars. We need to have a ballot with serious presidential aspirants, not just people who want to see what it feels like to be on the ballot paper. We need to have a certain level of respect for the highest office of the land.
What if I would, someone proposed that if you want to see seriousness, increase the number of people who nominate a presidential candidate?
It is still fine.
Other than increasing money, what would you say to that? Because money, you could be serious. We have seen serious presidential candidates, and they have been on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at them, their quality and what they stand for and what they can do, their achievements in their personal lives, splendid. But they get 0 votes on the ballot. So I want us to look at that aspect,
okay,
and say, is seriousness of a presidential candidate seen more by money or by the level of support that they have?
All right. I think maybe I can take this opportunity to highlight to you what we're doing as a party. As lead, we are actually in the process of petitioning Parliament, subsequently going to the Constitutional Court for an electoral reform to move over from the Westminster first past the post electoral system to a proportional representation system in our quest to be able to achieve gender balance in this country. So naturally, if we succeed, we would have to do away with constituency MPs. And if we do away with the constituency MPs, we still feel that if there's going to be a party list that would be taken to ZEC in 2023, the 20,000 US dollar figure will still be a fair figure because the presidential candidate will come from the number 1 on that particular list. It is important for us to be able to move over from this hybrid system that we've been using over the years. Because for us, we actually realize that the first past the post system is actually attributed to a lot of political violence, intolerance, toxicity, polarization, etc., etc. And it has not allowed a sufficient women participation in governance issues.
So this money thing would probably help in improving women participation.
Exactly.
When women, most of the times, have said they have been pushed out of politics because they don't have financial resources. So how does it help?
What I'm explaining? If we are using a proportional representation system, there will be no need for every candidate to be paying nomination fees because we'll be moving away from constituency MPs. We might, in our proposal that we are writing to the petition, we are saying we need to cut down on the number of MPs, come up with a proportional representation system, because in all honesty, we don't need 210 MPs in Zimbabwe. We are actually advocating for our MPs to be at least 100, 10 per province, use a proportional representation system, abolish the Senate, abolish the deputy ministers, for us to be able to save the taxpayers' funds so that we'll be able to work more on the developmental issues that we want in this country. So in that line, if our petition is successful, or if it is not successful in Parliament, and we take over the issue to the Constitutional Court, and we succeed in winning, $20,000 for a proportional representation list of all MPs will continue to be a fair figure, because an individual candidate will not have to pay individual nomination fees, but the political party will be footing the nomination fees for all the MP candidates.
Which would have been which would be $500,000, right? According to what ZEC has put. So your political party will be...
You're missing it, Dara. We are saying, if we successfully get
yes, I hear you.
proportional representation,
I heard that part.
we don't have to pay $1,000 per MP. We'll be paying one amount for the nomination fees of a proportional representation list.
I hear that argument, and that argument is if you are saying then you are going to pay 20,000 for everyone, you are already setting figures for ZEC if that thing changes, right? I'm basically saying with the present scenario that is there, if a political party now has to pay for everyone, then it pays for everyone from the president to the council to the last, and they'll just simply add.
I think I highlighted initially that we are condemning the nomination fees increase for MP candidates for Senate, and the introduction, because all along councillors were not paying any nomination fees. They were just submitting their papers, their police clearance, and their pictures. That was the nomination process for councillors. And we are condemning all that. The main reason why we are condemning that is because it is discriminatory. It is actually not allowing women, youth, people with disability, and some other men who do not have the ability to mobilize resources, to participate to be MPs, to participate to be senators, to participate to be councillors. And we are actually working with the Institute of Young Women Development to make sure that we advocate for the reversal of the increase for particularly the nomination fees for MPs, for the Senate, and the total removal and abolishment of the introduction of nomination fees for councillors, because we feel that it is violating the right to inclusivity in political processes, in governance processes, and we are clear about that.
I want to come to you, Maumba, and try and bring the test of reasonability. Is it reasonable to increase something from 1,000 to 20,000? Is it reasonable to come from $0 to $100? What is the reasonability test that ZEC applied in its inflationary figures in a country where government says the economy is ticking?
You see, the subject of reasonability is subjective depending on where one stands. And reasonability involves the logic in coming up with that particular process. And for me, I strongly feel that responding to that makes me I should be a ZEC insider to say what pivots of reasonability were deployed. But let me come back to some few fundamental issues that emerged in this debate.
Let's just deal with the issue of reasonability.
Yeah, but I'm coming to that.
Okay.
I'm extending my point to that. I want to talk about the constitutional reasonability. I want to talk about the comparative reasonability, and I'll explain what I mean by that. The constitutional reasonability emanates from the fact that there's been an argument that ZEC is funded by the public. ZEC operates on the taxpayers' money, and on that pretext, ZEC should not solicit other means of mobilizing funds for its operational existence. And I would say we have got other commissions. Now this is the aspect of comparative reasonability. We have got other commissions, such as the Judiciary Service Commission. It is a constitutionally constituted entity that is said to be funded by the public. But did we not know, or do we not know, that the same Judiciary Service Commission actually also survives from the fines that it extracts from court processes and court rulings? There is an organization that you people in the media belong to that is called the Zimbabwe Media Commission. and all of you as journalists, you are accredited to function in Zimbabwe. But that is the very same organization that is constitutionally conceived. And not only that, it makes you people pay. When foreign journalists come into this country, they are made to pay. So the argument about ZEC having to be a taxpayer-funded institution and that it should not have alternative means of funding, I think that is a flawed and hugely politically sensitive argument. You have got the Forestry Commission. Do you not know that the Forestry Commission taxes all people that have got game parks, it taxes all people that... So I strongly feel if we were to look at issues from that perspective, we tend to politicize administrative things. I see that as a purely administrative thing that should not be generously misconstrued to political weaponization. And like I said in my first point, I'm sure in the heart of his hearts, when the president even heard that ZEC is beginning to have these alleged huge fees, he is deeply saying, but this thing is going to destroy the pollard that I had created, where I was exchanging with my counterparts, regardless of their meager votes, regardless of their legal support from the people, regardless of the fact that they were rejected by the people, and we still bought them vehicles. And also, there have been arguments that have been emanating from. There have been
I want him to clarify something.
Okay, but can allow
you can come in, my comrade. It seems that my brother Mahomva wants to continue to speak about the president. The president, this is the president that, in whose shoes is he standing?
My shoes. As an individual and as an intellectual, I'm sure it was clear that I was invited
no,
on my
academic you cannot continue.
Can we allow him to speak? Then you'll be allowed to further your point.
Yeah.
If you want to place him somewhere, you are allowed.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think maybe let's make something clear. I know the underpinning insinuations that in as much as I'm an academic, it's a given. I'm an academic, but all ideas belong somewhere. So for us to pretend that academics have ideas that do not belong somewhere, I think it's folly. I am a profound ZANU-PF inclined academic by virtue of being a Pan-Africanist. There is no question about that. Now, coming back to the subject of the day, I was saying what ZEC is doing, and this is me speaking as an academic, this is me speaking as a political scientist, I strongly feel that such is an administrative move. And all political parties that feel that they need to take part in political processes, they must be responsible for that. It is irresponsible of them to say, because this is a constitutionally comprised body which gets its funds from the public, therefore we can use it to pursue certain things that even strain the public fiscus. Because look at it clearly, you have a situation whereby you've got this free train that accommodates everyone to be a councillor and all of that, and some of these people, we all know from an empirical political standpoint, we all know that some of these people have produced very meager votes. And are we saying that Mbuya in Lotito and my father down there in Pelandabas little trinkets into the public fiscal should be surely used to sustain, such narcissist political intentions by people that think they can be a councillor and not even get votes? I'm just saying, let's have mercy for my Mbuya in Berengwa, and let's not utilize your money to print a ballot box that has got politicians that are not responsible for taking up political offices and cannot fund their political intentions.
But you speak like this when we all know that ZANU-PF and probably the MDC-T alliance is going to take public funds to fund their presidential candidates and their councillors, because they are going to be allocated from the from the finance, from the blue book.
Yeah.
They are going to have a mega allocation. which they are going to just basically use. So you're saying those who have no access to funds from government, which is taxpayers' money, which you are saying must be protected, should be excluded from electoral processes.
Not only that, Blessing, you are raising a very important point. You see, we've got the Political Finances Act. You just reminded me of a point that I forgot. We have got the Political Finances Act, which when Linda, which when John, which when Richard Mahomva pays that 20,000 or that MP who belongs to that political party pays that 1,000, that Political Finances Act is going to enable them to sustain other logistical issues. So in other words, when people pay their $100, when people pay their 1,000 US dollars, it means that they are already subject beneficiaries of the Political Finances Act. And what has been doing, what has been happening in the past, most of these political parties would get money from the Political Finances Act. And you know what most of them would do? Some of them would go and use that money for their luxuries. So you have got a system where ZEC is independently creating systems that arrest such follies. This is why you've got a public outcry from, there is this apparent public outcry that, we are being made to pay. And they are not telling people that they benefit from the Political Finances Act. So there is also that hidden reality that our people need to know.
You said you'd beg to differ. I'll allow you.
Yes, I think we should not be blind to the fact that the Political Finances Act only finances political parties with 5% representation in Parliament. That was done by the MDC and ZANU-PF in their quest to elbow out minority parties. Now that it has come to bite, even some of those who pushed for that particular act, like my brothers Chamisa and Biti, they want to cry foul today. If they had not presided over that 5% representation in Parliament, they would not be crying foul today that those what do you call it, the nomination fees announced by ZEC are exorbitant. I think at the end of the day, there are a lot of reforms that are supposed to happen, particularly the Political Finances Act, because those Political Finances Acts currently in Zimbabwe are only benefiting 2 political parties. And they do not benefit every other political party that will be running for elections, unlike in other countries where every political party that will be running for a particular election is actually funded from the Political Parties Finances Act. I think it is also time for my erstwhile brothers to consider how what they fought for and advocated for is now coming back to bite them.
But I wanted to, not that we have to digress, but I wanted, on a point of clarity, I've heard Douglas Monzora saying he was the one who fought for it in court and won it. Now you're taking it to Chamisa and Biti.
They were together in the MDC. When Douglas went to court, he did not go representing Douglas Monzora. He went there representing a political party.
So he lies when he says it.
Yes, we cannot separate them.
No, I just wanted that clarity.
They went as MDCT then.
No, I just
now
wanted that
they
clarity.
have disintegrated, maybe someone will be trying to say Dindakajita, but they did that as a political party. And I remember, if we can scroll back to the pictures in court, all of them were there seated in court pushing for that Political Finances Act to be 5%.
But were they not taking it from a higher threshold to at least 5%? Because that is what I know. Because previously only ZANU-PF, I think the threshold was around 90%. And they pushed it from 90% to 5%.
I think those are now semantics.
No,
because we should actually be also
on a factual basis.
No, we should actually be adopting best practices from other countries. Okay. Any political party that is running in elections should also get the Political Parties Finances Act. Funds. Because at the end of the day, we cannot have a few political parties benefiting from that, squandering that money. We know some of the people are actually taking those Political Finances Act, putting them into a trust. And those funds that are supposed to be used to campaign for people. It's unfortunate that candidates and sitting MPs don't want to tell the truth about these political finances monies. And when some of us want to speak about these things that have been happening in other quarters, you want to sell out. But people have been funding their own campaigns, suffering, yet millions would have come for the political financing. And that money not being used to help in campaigns, to help with posters, to help with whatever campaigns that will be happening at a particular given time. So at the end of the day, we all need to introspect, both opposition, ruling parties, etc., on how these funds are being used. And we've actually been advocating to have accountability of these political finances money. What are they being used for? They should be accounted for because they're coming from the national purse. They are taxpayers' funds, but some people have gotten rich, invested those monies, and not even used those particular monies to benefit the political parties they purport to lead.
You wanted to address an issue. I'll give you an opportunity to do that.
Okay, yeah, sure. No, I'm now happy that he has rightfully taken his position, so that we won't have challenges when he's addressing us next time, because you can't have Tsenengam saying no, I'm an independent person, no, I'm an opposition member, and it is from that angle that I say whatever that I want to say. So it is proper that my good comrade has taken up his rightful position, which is his right in any case. So what I was about to say also is that as the Front for Economic Emancipation in Zimbabwe, we only do not have a problem with the commodification of the right to participate in electoral processes. Because if we allow this to happen, the next time we'll be told that if you want your voice to be heard to vote, you must be able to finance that, because some people are not even serious when they cast their votes. So we want to make sure that we have quality votes. No, it was experienced in the past when the Rhodesians said you must have be of such a level in terms of academic qualifications, in terms of properties, in terms of income. Those who were on the A row and those who were on the B row, they had different qualifications, and they had different privileges, and so this is where we might end up, because some people would think that maybe a vendor's vote is not of quality other than that of an academic. So we must allow quality votes than allow people every Jack and Jill to cast a vote. The other issue that we think we might be having problems with as a party is all these political rights were fought for. My comrades knows. Hundreds of thousands of Zimbabweans had to shed their blood, sweat and tears to have these votes, to have these rights. And surprisingly, there is deafening silence from the former revolutionary party that organized and mobilized people to go against a discriminatory system by the Rhodesian settlers who were in charge of what is now Zimbabwe. So it is very unfortunate that we have not called someone who has come in officially to those who would have wanted to understand ZANU-PF's official position regarding this matter. Though he is ZANU-PF inclined, but he cannot speak authoritatively on behalf of ZANU-PF. So we have wanted a situation.
You would appreciate that the Minister of Justice looks at those regulations before they are approved and can remove them. He's got that power in terms of the Constitution. So probably ZANU-PF has already spoken.
No, we know of the conflation between the state and the ruling party. But when it is convenient for them, they would want to run away from that, to say they are the ones who are running government. They would want to say, no, this is government doing its own thing. But when that government scores, they would unleash Marrakesh and say, have you seen what our government has done? So, like we are all aware that ZEC doesn't have legislative authority. That lies with the legislature, and part of the legislature is consists of parliament and the president. That is what is stipulated in the constitution. So for my dear comrade, my learned comrade Mahomva, to say the president was even baffled by what ZEC did because it is upsetting his...
I said you could be baffled because I'm
you
sure
said,
this-
it's an assumption.
Yeah, he could
okay.
be baffled given his profound affection to Poland, that this might break away his newly established friendships with other political players.
But well, my take is, I don't think that he has permanent interest in Poland. Because from my point of view, the Poland initiative was just some marriage of convenience for that period. And I don't foresee Poland coming in 2023. So if anyone thinks that they have to participate to campaign as president and compete so that there is Poland, I don't think that if President Mnangagwa wins in 2023, he's going to reintroduce Poland, because it would have expired. It will no longer be there to serve his interests, because that's what I think it is. As much as they would want to say this was a platform to do 1, 2, 3 things. Anyway, my submission going forward is why we also have a challenge with commodifying the right to participate in electoral processes is our position as a party, as a socialist party, that we are also against commodifying things like education, things like health. We believe that if national resources are properly managed, if we change the ownership model of resources, we can be able to say education will be there for free, health will be there for free, even water. We say water is life, but water is being sold. So we believe that there are a lot of issues that have to be dealt with. We don't agree to an issue where Mahomva owns a diamond mine, and at his own time thinks that I must undertake what we call corporate social responsibility, when the resources are supposed to be benefiting everyone, and maybe remitting 5% to the state, while he gets away with 95%. So why I'm saying this is that we just don't have a problem with commodifying the right to participate in electoral processes, but we have also a problem with commodifying things like education, things like health, things like access to clean water. Those don't have to be commodified.
No, I wanted to come to you on 2 aspects. I'll do them one by one. The first aspect is that you speak about Poland and say that the fee might upset Poland, but will it really upset Poland? Because this is just a matter of someone's ability to pay. So probably those guys in Poland can still raise that 20,000. So it will not be upset by any way.
Yeah, there is that position, but I'm saying this
because the best way to upset Poland is to increase the threshold of nominators and not increase money.
Oh, well, talking about the increase of, I wanted to say that after Linda spoke that I think on top of the money, another model is that of increasing the threshold. And because we are so serious about the inclusion of our people in large numbers in political processes, given that we have had a passive political culture, I strongly feel that it is important maybe to also increase the nomination threshold in a country of 15 million people to 50,000, I'm sure that's something that may need to be considered, that the threshold for nomination is increased to perhaps 50,000. I think that will also be very good in terms of showing the levels of seriousness for political parties that
on the second
come on board.
On the second point, you talk about ZEC being allowed to raise money to fund its operations and stuff like that. But if these fees are, they will exclude other people, that basically means that even the level of ZEC's ability to raise money will also be dwindled. Because basically, for instance, where previously we had 1,000 candidates, we'll probably just have 100 because they will not be able to afford. So this is not a fundraising thing. This is an exclusion thing.
But look at this. Let's say in the past they used to pay $100 presidential candidate. How much was it?
It was 1,000.
1,000. So if we've got let's say we've got 4 presidential candidates, that means ZEC is going to get how much? 80,000.
Compared to 2018, they got 23,000.
From 23 candidates. And in terms of the cost-benefit analysis, you know what that means? It means that printing a smaller ballot and even cutting the cost. So administratively, this has got more advantages than it has disadvantages. I did the math.
But my issue here is very simple.
Yeah.
When ZEC says it is ready for an election, they have the money. They don't announce that they have an election and expect candidates to pay so that they run the election. Is that not it?
When the
let us agree.
Yeah.
Let us agree.
Yeah.
They've been funded from. They give their budget to the Minister of Finance.
And I want to deploy your concept of reasonability and throw in comparative reasonability. When the registry office says it is ready to print passports and makes sure that you pay, is it not a similar process with the subject that we're debating? And what am I saying? I'll throw in another concept of the social contract, that in everything that is a public good, the public organization and the clients have got mutual responsibilities. So likewise, every other time when any public service good is offered, be it you going to getting your ID, you pay for the ID. But that is still constitutionally enshrined. That still demands money. So it's administratively logical.
That is why on
back
issues,
to the point of that being administratively logical.
When it's logical, that means that the fees are nominal. Because you would know that producing a birth certificate does not cost the money that you pay for it. You would know in the past, before we had problems, the money that we used to pay to acquire a passport was not the actual cost. It was a nominal fee to show intent. Now here, this is not a nominal fee by any means.
How is it nominal when we're saying in a democratic country, a party that has got good mobilization skills? He was a former Chamisa, and he knows that a proper functioning party is able to mobilize people to a gathering, an amount of about 3,000 for a rally, 5,000 for a rally. A proper party within its structures, from the cell, it is able to mobilize 50 people at a province, 150 and all of that. So this concern should be coming from political parties that know that they have no people. And therefore, as a nation, we should not be debating minority issues. Let us talk about fundamental problems around our elections, the hygiene of our elections, not the fact that this one wants to take part in a process that they cannot take full responsibility of.
Minorities don't have rights in a democracy.
Yeah, but
because you are saying let's not talk about them, but minorities matter, don't they?
I'm saying in this case they are not raising a fundamental issue.
But
what are the fundamental issues?
The majority
what are the
we have the Triple C that have a party base that raised $120,000 to just buy a car for a president for their president.
They struggled to raise it. Just to put it into context.
But they are still complaining about it.
Yeah, but they struggled to raise that 120. This is a party that has no structures. This is a party that has no office. So let's not discuss about the impoverishment of political parties. Surely if an entire party starts to discuss that we need to buy our president,
it wasn't the party. No, let us not.
That are people.
Let us not mistake facts. But anyway, you're an academic. Academics argue on facts, not on.
We are digressing.
But anyway. Yes,
okay. I want to say, I think what my brother said in regards to the ability political parties to raise funds. Like he rightly said, I'm a former Chamisa in ZANU-PF. The party is always seeking funds. That big party is always with a begging power. One that was formed in 1963. Then came together as ZAP in 1987, doesn't have a sound financial base, despite the fact that they have millions of members, because their members are poor. They don't have the ability to pay for the membership and subscription fees. I was a Chamisa, and he knows that. We were together at the party HQ. That's why you saw that party being captured by the likes of Kudata Gwire. That's why that party got vehicles from Kudata Gwire, got its salaries from Kudata Gwire, got its fuel from Kudata Gwire, not from its membership. And I think the CCC has done extremely well because it has managed to raise 120,000 from its membership, despite the fact that they don't have a structure, which is their right.
Digressing from the topic of the debate.
It's issue of money.
We are discussing about an institution being able to raise certain amounts of money. Like I've told you, when I was in ZANU-PF, we know the party got funds from other sources, and they don't allow other parties to get finance from somewhere, but they also get that. So what I'm trying to drive at is we can't have political parties boasting that they have the ability to raise so much money other than other political parties, because we'll be then be forced to ask the sources of those monies. And I'm really sure that some other parties won't be comfortable to divulge to the public the sources of those monies, the agreements behind such funds, and what's going to happen in the future. So constitutionally, Zimbabweans have a right. Anyone has got a right to take part in electoral processes. Like what my dear sister has rightfully said, we're a constitutional democracy, we're a representative democracy. Even if I want to represent a minority, I have that right. And the minorities have a right to be represented. And no one must use any other means to elbow them out. I would agree, yes, to raise the threshold in terms of the numbers that nominate a presidential candidate or an MP candidate. That would also help us in dealing with some people who also didn't get enough votes in the last elections, who were out there saying, no, we have the capacity, we have the ability to do 1, 2, 3 things. Even if they are going to get a 0, still it's their right to participate. You don't participate in an election because you say I have a majority of people supporting me. We are aware that even in ZANU-PF, they have been losing election in certain constituencies where they don't have a majority, but they continue to field candidates, knowing very well that they don't have a majority in certain opposition stronghold. So should we say because this is a stronghold for Linda and Fizi, you don't have a sound base, you must not be allowed to contest? No, everyone must be allowed to contest for as long as they feel that they have the support to take them to where they intend to go.
Amazing. Now, I think we are just fast running out of time. I'll allow the last round of contributions, then I'll allow us to have our conclusions. Linda, you had something to say?
I thought I was no longer part of the debate, so it was now oscillating between Godfrey and Richard. Anyway, I just have a point of order for my brother Richard here. There's a bit of paralysis of analysis on what you raised, especially on the issue of not focusing on minorities, because minorities will always be part of the political economy, and we cannot continue to pay a blind eye on them because they have their reasons for existence, and they also should be considered in all political and governance processes. So at the end of the day, I think back from where you come from, you have to tell them that minority parties also matter. And we have got that voice that all those who think they are popular do not have. At the end of the day, our voices need to be heard, and we will continue speaking, and we will continue participating. Secondly, I just wanted to speak about the issue to do with the ZEC. I think we're not paying attention to detail. The ZEC did not consult. They did not consult political parties. They did not consult all stakeholders when they were having this agenda of increasing nomination fees. So in that context itself, this whole process has to be aborted for a while and allow ZEC to do the rightful thing, to consult all the relevant stakeholders. This is my view, because of the mixed reactions that are coming from the stakeholders themselves. ZEC always conducts meetings where we discuss about all electoral processes with all the political parties. But surprisingly, for this particular nomination fee increases, ZEC did not consult. And that is a bone of contention. That is a cause of concern. And I think it would have been imperative to have a ZEC commissioner here with us to explain how they came to increase the nomination fees without consulting the relevant stakeholders. Secondly, we also have to interrogate why the Parliament electoral bill public hearings were not publicly announced. We just had it from another meeting that those meetings were happening. Who was attending those meetings? It seems that our own parliament here in Zimbabwe are now too elitist. Sometimes you hear of these things in passing, that there's a public hearing bill that is happening at A, B, C, D, and E. I mean, our parliament has to fulfill its mandate, ensure that whenever they're having any public hearing bill, there's sufficient awareness to all the people in Zimbabwe. And people in Zimbabwe should start appreciating these processes, attending these parliamentary public hearings. Blessed public hearings. Political parties ask kutumira vanhu. Most of the times you find the interested parties, they are the ones who will be attending these public hearings, busing people from one meeting to the other. You will see the same faces. I know this because I attend public hearings. So this thing of having political parties starting to scream and make noise after announcements should stop. They should also follow the parliamentary processes that will be happening, attending these public hearings, so that we'll be able to question from a position of authority and knowledge of where the flow was. So at the end of the day, it is imperative to have the commissioners telling us how and where they agreed with the stakeholders to increase the nomination fees. Because I feel all political parties and relevant stakeholders should have participated in the debate to increase this candidate nomination fees. I think this is an issue that no one has been speaking about, because everyone has been coming out guns blazing. ZEC has done this, ZEC has done this. But did we also question how they got to increase the fees without consulting all the relevant stakeholders?
Amazing.
Just to ride on the very important submissions made by Comrade Linda, I think the first point is around my submissions about minority political parties. It is my wish as a Democrat and as a political scientist that we kill this culture of having minority political parties. We need to rejuvenate our democracy and kill anything that is called a minority political party. And how do we kill that? We kill that by ensuring that these so-called minority political parties are capacitated to mobilize more people into their structures. So I strongly feel that the notion of minority political participation needs to be substituted by inclusive participation. That's what we went into the struggle for. That is point number one. Number two, point number two is around ZEC not consulting. Yes, it's a gross mistake that ZEC didn't consult. But what is emerging from the fact that ZEC didn't either go to ZANU-PF, it didn't either go to even the minority political parties, it expresses the general sense of independence that ZEC has as an institution. And what political parties now need to do is to also support ZEC to sustain its administrative interests and not be excessively on the complaining side, because that further polarizes us. And then coming back to some very important issues that were raised, some of them are allegations, some of them are conspiratory, and it's unfortunate that I'm not a ZANU-PF official to respond, but I would like to draw perspectives from history and draw perspectives from realism. From history, do we not know that the Rhodesian system, the Rhodesian regime in itself, was actually funded by its minority secular farmers? So, what is wrong with the Tagwirei? What is wrong with any other black man that has benefited from the good economic environment, supporting the government of the day that has initiated policies for them to exist as corporates? Number one, did we not know that there is a man called David Whitehead who actually funded the Rhodesian army? And do we not know that at its birth, the MDC was actually funded by paychecks from farmers? And one prominent sponsor was Roy Bennett. And also, do we not know that the opposition, especially the MDC then before it became CC, that it would have funds coming directly, indirectly to it through NGOs? So the point that I'm making is that all political parties have got benefactors. So let us not criminalize ZANU-PF when it is its Tagwireis that sponsor it, in as much as the Roy Bennetts did that. In as we pretend as if MDC and even our own, we pretend as if other political parties do not have people that support them. So it is only normal. However, maybe the problem that other political parties may have with that is that then if it is true that Tagwirei sponsors ZANU-PF, he sponsors it in very extravagant, in very sustainable terms, which are not in tandem with their, challenges to meet such meager amounts of paying, 20,000, So, and again, one last historical point that I want to throw is that let us not also forget that this very same ZANU-PF, before it was ZANU-PF, rather liberation movements, were funded by peasants to actually run the machinery of the armed struggle. And if we were to go by their numbers today, based on last election's results, it was about 2 million plus votes. And we are saying out of the 2 million people who voted for ZANU-PF, if only 500,000 from that, a fraction is taken, 500,000 people pay about $1 each. ZANU-PF on its own is able to have 500,000 to run an election, which most parties can't. So I think let us not criminalize ZANU-PF's efficient fund mobilization and sponsorships, which other parties have got the capacity to have, or which they do not have in some instances. So I think that's my last submission.
Oh, okay. No, thank you, my brother, for raising those points. But the point still remains that I am not criminalizing ZANU-PF. Yes, it is a problem when certain individuals fund the ruling party or the governing party and goes on to capture leadership and get exclusive access to national resources and economic opportunities at the expense of those who are not aligned to that party. I'll give a recent example of the Kotko scandal. One of the alleged beneficiaries of that scandal donated a ball for the ruling party. And what do? They do that using resources that were meant to benefit the public. So when you have someone who is said to be a benefactor, someone who sponsors and goes on to say takes over all mines that were owned by the ZMDC, gets control of the Feruka pipeline, goes on to buy all the major banks in the country, has got control over the Command Agriculture Scheme, gets pre-gas concessions in Lupane, gets pharmaceutical contracts. Why should we not be worried about that? Because they are funding ZANU-PF so that they have access to national resources and economic opportunities at the expense of those who do not support ZANU-PF or the ruling party. So this is where the problem is, because it's leading to state capture. That's where the problem is. He's saying no, in during the struggle, people supported ZANU-PF. Yes, they cooked sadza, provided information, provided some clothes, but we know that that support was not that substantial. The support that we got it from maybe China, we got it from Russia, and this is also the problem why we continue to be like an extension of China today, because we have to pay back. We have to pay back. So for as long as we have those in government receiving donations from some individuals who have interest to do business with government, then there is every reason to worry. Look at the people who donated to the president at the State House. Look at the other criminals who have been getting access to the president at State House, taking pictures with the president, donating this so and so, doing 1, 2, 3. At the end of the day, you hear that they have been involved in some scandal of some sort. And this is where our challenge is as a party. We obviously don't have the capacity that ZANU-PF has in terms of organizing resources, because we don't have the power to protect criminals who loot and steal from the state. Because those who steal from the state would obviously want protection from those who have power. So we obviously don't have the capacity to raise the 150 million for Yavakagadzirira inonzichi fundraising committee. Kuma youth vakaisa 1 million empowerment. More than 5 million youths vakapiwa 1 million yekunzi get empowered. But kuti vawine election, they are mobilizing 150 million yekutenga maskipa, makepi, neizvo kunopa varombo to get their vote so that they have access to the trillions worth of our national resources. So these are my comrades. I know them. I know how they operate and what they can do. And I have a problem with you guys not challenging kukomodify the right to participate, because in itself it's a betrayal yema comrades akadeura misodzi dikitane ropa rawo kuti tiwane mikanai maita yiwa maomba.
Thanks for the kind exchange, Blessing. Thanks for the good engagement.
Sure.
And thanks, my dear sister Linda.
You're welcome.
Amazing. Thank you very much for being a wonderful support to my guests. It was an amazing, insightful discussion that we will continue to engage, and we'll continue to have most of these engagements on the road to 2023. As Zimbabweans, we need to talk to ourselves. We need to talk about our own issues. We need everyone's voice so that we develop this nation, because this is our nation. And all of us, regardless of our differences in thinking, our differences in the way that we provide leadership in this country, we are all happy to be Zimbabweans. We love this country mightily, and we want it to be better than the rest of the countries in this world. Now this is the Free Talk in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation, and I, your host as usual, Dara Blessed Mhlanga. Now join us in our next episodes as we continue to bring you topical issues on national discourse with everyone's voice. Minority, majority, we should be heard. This is the alternative. This is the place where you talk. This is the place where you are heard. Thank you very much.